Alrighty, let's see here, play some Deep.io, and I think I'm going to talk about some capitalization rates. Not sure if anybody knows what that means here. It's kind of a way to value your home and how to kind of get an idea of how much money you're going to make on the money you spend on a house. It's the way I like to value a home, especially investment property. So let's get into it and just explain some of the basics. So, alrighty. First, just get established in this game because it looks like Red's actually doing really good. Honestly, I don't really want to be really good. But, oh. So capitalization rate is it's, it's basically just a calculation between um, your net operating income, your expenses, and the value of the home. Um, there's a few, um, ways to go about it. So obviously, one of the hardest things to calculate would be expenses. Um, there's no good way to calculate an expense when you're trying to purchase a home because you don't know what expenses there are. And yeah, you could get an expense worksheet from the seller, and it can be full of crap. Um, so you kind of have to work off of some guesses. You try to just get a good idea. Try to get some good estimates based on experience. Um, and there's other ways to do it too. So I mean, you can even talk to like their current tenants. Just ask them like, hey, what's your bills like? Or you know, does the landlord ever talk about problems with the house? And the things that you're gonna want to know are like you know how are the repairs been? That kind of factors into the expenses. If they're maintaining it, then you can estimate a little bit less repairs. If they're not, then you're gonna have to estimate a lot of repairs. Um, Income's pretty straightforward because it's just the rent times 12 months. So, real simple. Uh, Value of the home is it's more so what the seller lists it for. So, or what your estimate is for. So when I own a home, I can calculate the value by having the net operating income and dividing it by the capitalization rate that I want. um, and usually that's right around 12%, which is 0.12. The um, That's going to be on a personal level, and also it's going to be dictated somewhat by your area. Um, but a good baseline would be 10%. You're going to make money on 10% capitalization rate um, at anywhere. So, but some places deserve more. Um, if you're in a hard neighborhood that just is hard to rent, yeah, you can calculate higher vacancy, um, stuff like that. But there's just more risks associated with it. Um, I know near me, the city near me would fetch closer to 16, 17% capitalization rate. Um, the towns I tend to go into are somewhere around 12, and that's because I like to get a little bit for my money. A lot of money is made on the deal or on the purchase. Um, so the idea is to buy cheap and sell way later on for much more. Unless you're a flipper, then you can you know do the repairs and all that. But I don't want to get into that right now. Um, so yeah, so income's real simple. Say it's $1,000 a month. All you're looking at is $12,000 a year. That's income. But that's not your net operating income. That's just your gross. In order to get your net, you need repairs, and in order to get repairs, you kind of gotta um, well, repairs, all your expenses, your repairs, um, your utility bills, taxes, insurance, all that stuff. So um, some of it would be pretty easy to get. Um, mortgage does, principal and interest does not count towards a capitalization rate, and the whole point of that is that debt is not, it's not something you need to do. um, so don't calculate your your debt. Your debt's just not important in that calculation. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you have $12,000, in rent for the year, and you try to rent, or you say you have maybe $2,000 in utilities, it brings you down to about 10 grand, and then you have about, I don't know, let's say you have $1,000, for the repairs and vacancies, maybe another $1,000 for taxes, um, down to $8,000, and then maybe you know another $1,000 for just general um, improvements, property management, stuff like that. Trying to keep kind of generalized here. Would be $7,000. Um, that would be remaining, and that would be your net operating income. That is what you are expected to make um, for the year. Now that again, that's not with your principal and interest payments. It would be your taxes and insurance. You would have to separate those out of your mortgage payment if those are a part of your mortgage. Um, so, anyways, if I'll make it simple, so I don't need to bring in a calculator. Um, if I wanted to say get 10% capitalization rate, if I wanted 10% on return on my money, I would want to get the house for $70,000. The whole point of that is basically um, in how many years would it take for me to get my money back at 10%, would be 10 years. um, and basically, I would expect to get my $70,000 back in 10 years, um, much like an interest rate um, would have it. So if um, so if I could get the house for $70,000, that'd be great, because then I'd meet my 10% goal, or whatever. Um, it might be 12%. But if they say, oh well, it's $80,000, it's like somewhere around 9% for that, probably a little bit lower. It's going a little bit under what I would want. Not necessarily a terrible deal. I have bought a house. My very first house, or sorry, my very first investment house was right around 9%. I think it was like 8.6 or 8.7. And of course, it still worked out great for me. So it's not something you would want to really hesitate over. You don't want to get yourself locked in, you know, to you know, this notion that, oh, I need 12% or I need 10%, and I won't buy a house without it, and I'll just sit here for a year looking for a house until I find one. That's not a good strategy. Um, just look at the market. Um, the people that bought you know, before the pandemic have made tons of money. I mean, our house values have gone, you know, just insane. Um, and there's no loss to it. Even if you bought at 7%, it might not have been a great couple of years while you had it, but now, with rents going up and stuff, you're you you could probably get closer to 10% now, um, based on your old value. Now, obviously, that's not a good way to go about it, but yeah, you're making money on your house now because your rents went up, and of course everything else went up, so you'd have to calculate that too. But um, that same house that was about, it was like eight, well, let's just say 8.5%. I'm pretty sure it's about 12% now. It's pretty high. There was a lot of, um, it was a learning curve, but like I said, it worked out great. And if I were to sell, I'd probably honestly try to sell at 10% because plenty of investors will be interested in a good house with good leases, at 10%. If you can show that it is well done, they're gonna buy it. Um, and that's kind of what I did. Um, so obviously you know the expenses will be the hardest part to go about everything. Um, Now, if you're looking to sell, what you would do is you would say, okay, well, here's all my numbers. You get your net operating income the same way. You need to know what your gross income is. You need to know what your expenses are, and you would want expenses that you can kind of try to prove. Um, you do have to account for things like property management, even if you don't have a property manager. Um, just because I mean they're not, even if they self-manage, they're not doing for free. Their time is worth money. Is it going to be 9%? Probably not. You can argue, well, you're doing it yourself, you're cheaper work. Yeah, say, well, I'll discount, 5%, you know, put 5% of, towards a property management expense, um, which is actually possible when you get into like bigger, um, commercial properties and stuff. But for a single family home or small apartment building, you're probably going to be paying close to 9%, 10%. Um, and a lot of times you'll have other associated fees, um, such as when they it could be either half the rent or a full rent whenever they find an applicant. Repair calls and stuff could be marked up, and have fees and such associated to it. Vacancy is kind of a difficult one to the estimate, but generally 5% would be pretty good. Um, and when I say percentage, these percentages would be off of your yearly gross income. So again, if you're at $12,000 and you have 10% property management fee, it's going to be $1,200 to what is that guy doing? $1,200 minus you know out of your income. That's what you would have to pay, and that would be part of your expenses. If you do 5% vacancy, that's $600. If you do 5% repairs, that'd be another $600. So you do 10% um, capital or like capital repairs, which is improvements. I don't personally do that. I only do higher repair numbers, usually about 10% or so for repairs. Um, you can do that as well. The way I see it is that it's all repairs, even if it's an improvement, it's still a repair. It just goes into the repair fund for me. Um, if anybody tried to ask, I would probably just shoo them away. um, if they were asking for another 5% improvements. And honestly, if you you know keep good care with your property, you're not gonna be in a situation, um, where you have to worry about that. A seller bugging you about that, or a buyer bugging you about that. They're just not gonna, if they see like, oh, you got new furnace and stuff. I would hope that they don't try to haggle you down with that stuff. You just be like, hey, it's got a new furnace, it's got a new roof. What more do you want? It's got the improvements. Um, and of course, um, yeah. So that if you were selling, that's how you would calculate it. You would want your income, your expenses, you know, and then you would divide the two and get your um, or you would want your what the rough capitalization rate would be for your area, which might be like 10%. Um, and then you would divide the two together. So again, if it's 10,000 net operating income, and you do 10% capitalization rate because that might be the going rate for your area, then you get $100,000 in value. Now, obviously, something like this might not work for single family homes and stuff. Um, you would really want to use comparables for something like that. And the main problem with single family homes is they just don't conform to a multi-unit, you know, a multi-unit price point. They're just valued differently. So per unit wise, it's not rare to get you know per unit 60 for $60,000. You might spend $240,000 on a home that has 4 units, but they calculate to about $60,000 per unit. But if you try to slice that down and you get a house that is you know fine, doesn't have any issues, and you try to sell it for $60,000, I mean, one probably a fool. That is really low in just about anywhere in the United States. Um, but you would, you just wouldn't get your money out of it. Um, and same with purchasing, you're never going to find one for that cheap. So it'd be very difficult to find, a capitalization rate that makes sense on a single family home. Really, the only time you would ever find something that might make sense um, is if you try to, um, if you try to get a rehab project or something similar. Um, so, but that's not what I'm talking about here. So that's a whole nother subject. Uh, let's see, and it looks like purple is doing really good. So I think I'm gonna go get up there. Of course, I don't want to let them know I'm here. Your bullets up, and they'll figure out exactly where you're going. But yeah, so I mean, it's not a super difficult. Hold on. Let's see if I can sneak up on this guy. This guy over there, but I don't think it's gonna come over here. All right. Yeah, so it's not a super hard concept to learn, but it is an important one to know. Even if you don't want to use capitalization rates, because obviously a lot of people go by comparables or they'll go by the gross multiple, um, gross rent multiplier. Um, it's not something I use, and I really don't use comparables for multi units. It's just way too many issues with it, you know, in my opinion. But I just think the capitalization rate is, especially for investments, is like the surefire way to say, hey, this is how much money you're gonna make on your purchase. And of course, hopefully, it goes up with the housing prices and rent increases and all that good stuff. So, so, but yeah, I mean, you can. It's very easy to value your house. You just net operating income and expenses, um, or and the area's capitalization rates. It's very easy to calculate what you would be willing to purchase it for. Because if you have a set capitalization rate that a return on your investment that you want, then you look for the house, you do your calculations, you do a rough estimate on the expenses, and get a rough estimate on the net operating income. Try to use as much information as they give you, but obviously use good judgment because they can lie. and then just if the house is good, if the value that you calculated is good, then you go for it, and if not, then you just say no. Yeah. But yeah, I mean it's that's how I do it. That's my favorite method. Um, and I probably wouldn't do it any other way unless I'm doing single family homes. Like I said, single family homes you would want to calculate probably through comparables, which you can use a realtor for and all that good stuff. Let me try to kill this guy. He's oh no, he got me. Kind of figured that was gonna happen. We kind of got trapped between that guy, purple dude. I kind of want to go with sniper. Wow, sniper would be good. Not particularly great for killing them, but definitely annoys them. Oh yeah, but yeah, that's all I got for the capitalization rate. If there's any questions on it, feel free to comment, ask me some questions, and try to answer. It's definitely a good thing to learn, and I'll throw some examples in the description as well. So, all right, thank you very much, and I will hopefully make another video showing some other topics. Like I said, I'm still new to this, so it's just going to be a matter of figuring out what exactly is a good avenue to go. Um, got a lot of knowledge with real estate, so I think I would prefer somebody to actually bring up a subject on like what do they want to know, what do they want to learn, and then go into it from there. Um, that way, I can be more specific. Besides just kind of rambling on about you know random topics. So, alrighty, and I'll probably touch up on these topics in the future as well. I mean, once I you know just whenever I feel like it. So, alrighty, thanks for stopping by, and see you again next time.